Hello and welcome to this fascinating journey through the history of communication. Before the days of mobile phones and instant messaging, people had to rely on a range of innovative and sometimes surprising methods to communicate with each other over distances. From smoke signals to carrier pigeons, town criers to heliographs, each culture developed its own unique system for transmitting information. In this video, we'll explore some of these ancient communication methods and discover how people managed to stay connected before the advent of modern technology. So sit back, grab a cup of tea, and join us on this fascinating trip through the history of communication. First is, smoke signals were a means of communication used by various cultures throughout history. The basic principle involved creating a large column of smoke that could be seen from a distance, often by using fire or burning materials such as wood or grass. The smoke signals would then be used to convey a message either through a series of pre-arranged signals or by using smoke in different colors to represent different messages. For example, a tribe might use a series of long and short smoke puffs to represent a call for help or a warning of danger. The smoke signals were particularly useful for communicating over long distances, as they could be seen from far away, and were a key tool for survival and communication for many indigenous cultures. Second is, drumming signals were a form of communication used by various cultures throughout history, particularly in Africa and South America. The basic principle involved using drum beats to transmit a message over long distances. In this system, specific rhythms and patterns of drumming were used to represent different messages, such as calls to assembly, warnings of danger, or announcements of important events. The drumming signals could be heard from far away, allowing them to be used to communicate over large areas. Each community often had their own unique drumming code, with different rhythms and patterns used to convey different messages. The drumming signals could be transmitted quickly, allowing for fast and effective communication in a time before modern communication technologies were available. The tradition of using drumming signals is still alive today in some cultures and is often used in cultural ceremonies and festivals. Third is, heliographs were a means of communication used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, primarily for military and communication purposes. A heliograph works by reflecting sunlight with a mirror to create a beam of light that can be seen from a distance. In the heliograph system, messages were sent by flashing the light in a series of dots and dashes, similar to Morse code. The heliograph operator would use the mirror to reflect the sunlight towards the receiver, who would then interpret the flashes as a message. Heliographs were particularly useful for communication over long distances, as the beam of light could be seen for many miles. They were used in military operations, such as during the Anglo-Zulu War in 1879, and in communication networks, such as the British Indian telegraph system in the late 19th century. With the advent of more advanced communication technologies, such as the telephone and radio, the use of heliographs declined. However, they remain an interesting example of early communication technology and a testament to human ingenuity. Fourth is, carrier pigeons, also known as homing pigeons, were a means of communication used in ancient times and up until the early 20th century. The basic principle involved training pigeons to fly back to their home loft from great distances, carrying a message or a small payload in a small container attached to their leg. The pigeons were trained to associate their home loft with food and safety, and were released from a remote location carrying a message. The pigeons' innate homing instincts would then guide them back to their home loft, where the message could be retrieved. Carrier pigeons were used for many purposes, including military communication, news delivery, and even personal correspondence. They were particularly useful for communication over long distances and in areas where other communication technologies were not available or were unreliable. The use of carrier pigeons declined with the advent of more advanced communication technologies, such as the telegraph and telephone, but the tradition of racing pigeons and using pigeons for message delivery lives on today in some communities. Fifth is, town criers were a means of communication used in ancient times, particularly in Europe and the Middle East. The basic principle involved a person, known as the town crier, going through the streets of a town or city and announcing news, proclamations, or other important information using a loud voice and distinctive call. Town criers were often dressed in a distinctive uniform, such as a cloak and hat, and carried a bell or other instrument, which they would use to draw attention to their announcement. They would walk through the streets, stopping at key points to make their announcement and then moving on to the next location. The role of the town crier was important in a time before widespread literacy and widespread access to printed news. They were often the primary means of spreading news and information, and their announcements covered a wide range of topics, from local events and markets to royal proclamations and news from other parts of the world. Although the use of town criers declined with the advent of more advanced communication technologies, such as the printing press and the telegraph, the tradition of the town crier lives on in some communities, and they continue to be used for special events and celebrations. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.